Dear Ridwan, thank you so much for joining us, launching our second episode or the second season of our podcast, Drip by Drip, Unveiling Fashion's Thirsty Truths. I'm really thrilled to have you on board because you are actually the closest partner that Drip by Drip is having for more than 7 years now. And we've done incredible projects together in Bangladesh. And I'm very, very glad to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Amira, for having me. And it's a very privilege to me with you. So, and we're working for a long time in different sectors like clean water projects, then plastic recycling, then menstrual hygiene management, and the mobile hospital definitely. So, and thank you very much for supporting us for a long time and trusting us for a long time.
No, thank you for trusting us.
Yeah, and we're trying to do something better for the Bangladeshi people, particularly the underserved people in the rural areas and in the water, in the areas where water is polluted by industrial toxic.
Exactly. Yeah, no, thank you for this wonderful cooperation that we've had for years now. So just to introduce Ridwan a little bit to our audience, before creating and founding the current NGO you're working for, AGROHO, which you're the director of, you've worked for BRAC, which is a huge organization in Bangladesh. And for many, many years, you've worked in the field of water projects, wash projects, so the wash sector. So you have incredible experience about the situation in terms of water for the population in Bangladesh. So my very first question would be, what's the most shocking fact about water in Bangladesh that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, so Bangladesh has achieved a lot in terms of MDZ, and Bangladeshi population is under basic water coverage is 98%. However, there is a vast difference between coverage and the quality of water available. So, according to the last JMP report, Joint Monitoring Program of 2022, the proportion of Bangladeshi population with access to safely managed water is at only 59%. And despite progress on overall improved water coverage and achieving the MDZ water target, access to safe water for all is remain a challenge because only 15% of the population is under piped water supply, and out of this 15%, only 3% of the poorest people. In addition to this,
Ridwan,
the contamination of
Ridwan, sorry, can I just interrupt you? There is a huge, like a really loud sound in the back, like someone is clapping on something. Do you know where that comes from?
No, there is a building is being constructed, so
okay.
It's the hammering sound.
Yeah, I understand. So we can't change anything about it. Never mind. So sorry. Let me ask the question again. So we catch a minute where they are not hammering. So can you share with us your experiences of how urgent the water crisis in Bangladesh currently is for the population?
Bangladeshi water crisis is very urgent. It's very urgent. Though 98% of the Bangladeshi people is under basic water coverage, but still there is a vast difference between the coverage and the quality of water available. According to the last JMP report, the Joint Monitoring Program report of 2022, the proportion of Bangladeshi populations with access to safely managed water is only 59%. And despite progress on overall improved water coverage and achieving MDZ target, the access to safe water for all remains a challenge. And only 15% of the population is under piped water supply. And out of those 15%, only 3% of the people are from the poorest quintile. And in addition to this, the contamination of water is also a particular concern, with 86% of the poorest households showing E. coli contamination, which is very dangerous, along with the 16% population of across Bangladesh consuming the arsenic contaminated water. So arsenic contamination, then E. coli contamination, then surface water contamination by the industrial water, and new phenomenon has come in, that the rising salinity water in the coastal area. So this all together actually creating a huge problem for the water crisis in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Of course. And since we together work on projects that are directly targeting or trying to service textile workers in Bangladesh, can you share what their realities right now in Bangladesh are when they come back to their villages, for example, or even the water situation in the factories? Like, how is this water crisis specifically affecting textile workers?
The Bangladesh is the second largest exporter of ready-made garments in the world after China, and with more than 4,000 garment and textile factories generating approximately $50 billion revenue per year. But the garments worker, since the beginning, the garments workers are paid very low wages, and right now they're facing triple-barreled threat. For example, the Western buyers are paying less for the clothes, while the food price in the country have gone up by around 10% since last year. So it's very, accommodating situation for the garments worker. Excuse me. And retailers are not paying more. At the same time, the factories are not paying more to the workers. This is the situation. The waste situation of the garment worker in Bangladesh. And more than, in terms of the rural people, more than 25 million people out of the 165 million people are still living in the poverty in Bangladesh, and they are living in mainly rural areas. And economic position indicate that the poverty rate will fall to 15 to 20% by 2030, which is still far from enough to eradicate the extreme poverty by 2030 under SDG.
Yeah.
In addition, the inequality is increasing among the people. The rich people are getting richer, and the poor people are getting even poorer. And the Bangladesh is among the climate vulnerable countries, victim to heavy rain, then the flood, cyclone, then salinity intrusion, the spells of drought, intensifying the risk of the food security. And at the same time, the disappearance of income opportunities for farmers, and number of farmers they lost their job, and they are coming into Dhaka for pulling rickshaw or some other job. And the spread of water-related disease sometimes happen in Bangladesh in the rural areas and in the urban areas. And as you asked, that the textile industry often negatively impact the lives of the workers, particularly in the rural areas, due to poor working condition, then low wages, then lack of adequate labor rights protection. Workers, particularly the women in garments factories, are subject to long working hours, unsafe environment, minimal access to healthcare, including menstrual hygiene management. This led to their physical and mental health issues as well. And additionally, the rural communities face often environmental degradation for the RMG and textile production, such as water contamination from the dyeing process, and which directly affect the health and livelihood of the people. As I said earlier, that the in the garments and RMG hub in Bangladesh, the rivers are contaminated, and fish and aquacultures are not there that much in the dry season or in the summer season. But in the rainy season, things are quite okay, as the rainwater coming into the river and the pollution washed away. So
Yeah.
these are the things in terms of the impact of communities and impact on the garments worker.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I understand. You talked about natural disasters that Bangladesh is facing on a regular basis, also like cyclones or flooding. But besides, obviously, we all know about man-made disasters that have shaken the whole textile industry in Bangladesh. The most prominent, the most prominent. Now I'm lacking the word for it. The most prominent happening that shook the whole industry was the Rana Plaza tragedy in 2013, which killed more than 1,000 textile workers and which completely shook the whole world, basically. Do you have a feeling that legislation and measures that were taken in the aftermath of that tragedy have led to meaningful change in the industry? So is it now safer for workers to attend their working hours in the factories, or is still not enough progress done?
After the Rana Plaza tragedy happened in 2013, exposed to very critical flaws in Bangladesh garments industry, leading to over 1,136 deaths and global outrage. In response, Bangladesh government responded very quickly in that time, and significant reforms have been done, with Accord on Fire and Building Safety and the Alliance for the Bangladesh Worker Safety playing critical role. After that, the Accord, a legally binding agreement involving global brands and trade union, mandated the factory inspection and safety improvements, leading to better building structure and fire safety measures in many factories. Similarly, the alliance, formed by the North American retailers, focused on improving safety standard through inspection and workers training. While these initiatives lead to notable improvement in factory safety, but issues persist still. Many factories still face labor rights violation, then poor working condition, then unsafe environment, especially those not covered by the Accord.
Can you say why that? Sorry, Ridwan. Can you explain why that is the case? So if the legislation was improved after the tragedy occurred, why is it still until today not fully improved? Like the whole system, why hasn't it been mended?
BGMA is working on it. And a number of factories are being visited by them. BGMA and then government different agencies. But still, the problem is in the garment sector. There are very big factories, there are medium scale factories, and there are very small factories. Those who are we call it subcontracting factories. So they receive contract from the big factories. They are not direct recipient of the order from the Western buyers. So actually, those are non-compliance factories, the subcontracting unit. So BGME is still working on it because every new year there are a lot of small factories are coming in into the RMG sector. So the working should be continuing to integrate those subcontracting unit into the compliance issues.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So the industry's focuses on profit over safety remains a challenge. So this is another issue, and thus, while the Accord and Alliance has Alliance made a substantial contribution, more comprehensive enforcement and systematic changes are needed to ensure the lasting improvement in worker safety and rights. So, government, then buyers, then owners, they should work together for the safety, security, and improvement of the workers and the factories and the buildings.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. If they all work together, obviously that the power for transformation is much higher, because everybody who's part of the supply chain will work hand in hand and support the process, I guess. So in the last year, our corporation went over to a new topic, which is gender health in textile factories. And we launched a pilot project in terms of menstrual hygiene management in factories, which hopefully will be continuing this year. So we have obviously learned a lot about legislations that are in place currently to protect gender rights. And one of them was super interesting to me because it is so much more progressive than workers' rights in the European Union at this moment. And that example is that in case of a miscarriage, a worker in Bangladesh has the right for a leave of absence for, I think it is 2 weeks, which is something that feminist groups in Germany are trying to fight for years already and haven't been successful with. So obviously there are some progressive laws in place already in Bangladesh. Do you have the feeling that this is actually supporting the women and is really being enforced so that the conditions for the female textile workers are improving? Or is it just basically regulations that are not being enforced?
Yeah, there are a number of laws and rules and procedures that exist in Bangladesh, particularly in the garment sector. It's because of the interest of the government, interest of the buyers, and for the sake of the workers, and actually the total scenario of the RMG sector. But despite this kind of legal framework, the practical impact of such regulations remains mixed. So many female workers in Bangladesh, particularly in the garments industry, where women make up the majority of the workforce, more than 4 million female workers are working in garment sector. They struggle to access these rights, though we have a lot of laws. And the factors such as the lack of awareness, because they don't know that they have some protective laws, and the informal employment and the employer resistance often prevent workers from benefiting from these laws and regulations fully. Additionally, the enforcement of such laws is inconsistent, with many factories failing to comply or offering benefit only to formal employees, leaving a large portion of workforce without support. So informal and formal employment. And furthermore, while the law provides the maternity leaves, many workers face challenges in taking leave without fear of jobless and wage deduction, which can undermine the law's effectiveness. So we're seeing this as well. Thus, while Bangladesh regulations represent a progressive step, a very progressive step, their impact on improving working conditions for female workers depend heavily on the strengthening the enforcement mechanism and the raising awareness about these rights among the workers and the employees. So the enforcement is very important. Laws are there. So monitoring and enforcement is important to implement those effectively and efficiently.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, one other thing that that I learned from you is that there is a law in Bangladesh in place that regulates the fact that at each factory there needs to be a childcare room dedicated for the female or the workers in general for their children, but that that usually those rooms are empty, so there is nothing in there for the children to use, or the staff is not trained. So that obviously there is some kind of risk for the workers to leave their children with completely untrained staff. What do you think, how the situation can be improved? Is it, if the law itself is not helping, does it need more regular inspections at the factories, or do there need to be higher salaries for the staff so they can afford, for example, childcare outside of the factory? Like, what do you think would really benefit the working conditions for the workers most?
Yeah, you rightly pointed out. We have seen that the enforcement of regulations requiring childcare rooms in factories must go beyond just mere compliance with the law, and focuses on meaningful implementation that genuinely support workers. So in many cases, while childcare room exist, as you say, they are poorly equipped and untrained staff, if present at all, and undermine the quality of care. To address this, actually, regulation should include specific standard for the facilities, such as age-appropriate educational material or training material, toys, then hygienic condition, then properly trained childcare staff. Furthermore, the robust monitoring and penalties for the non-compliance must be enforced by the BGMA or the government regularly to ensure the consistent adherence. If the regulations are only superficially followed, the intended benefits for workers will remain limited. So leaving mothers with inadequate options that fail to alleviate the burden, and in some cases even jeopardize the children's well-being. So only thorough, strong, yeah,
which they don't want to risk.
So only thorough, stronger, more comprehensive enforcement and oversight can these regulations truly serve the purpose in supporting the female workers. Otherwise it can be work.
Yeah. So my next question is that we have talked about the natural disasters, so the environmental and climate change situation that hits Bangladesh pretty hard. What is your vision, or what's your idea what the textile sector in general will look like in 10 years? Because we hear a lot about rising sea levels, about floodings that are risking factories and production sites. So how do you think the whole garment sector in Bangladesh will develop over the course of the next 10 years?
The RMG sector and the textile sector in Bangladesh will likely face the significant challenges and opportunities over the next decade due to both man-made disaster and natural environmental factors. The increasing frequency and severity of natural disaster like floods and cyclone, recently added the heat wave, then some riverbank erosion can threaten the infrastructure of the garments factories and the supply chains, roads and highways, and the livelihood of workers, definitely, in the rural areas. Then especially those in the vulnerable and coastal areas as well. So this disruption could lead to production delay, number one, then higher operational cost, then loss of workforce availability. And on the other hand, the industry may see a shift toward sustainable practice as a global demand for eco-friendly and climate resilient production grows. However, the adapting to these challenges will require significant investment in disaster-proofing infrastructure, which is very, costly one. Then climate adaptation strategy and the workers' protection uh, is very important. So if these measures are not prioritized, then the industry may struggle to maintain its competitive base and resilience in an increasingly unpredictable climate. So
Yeah.
like Bangladesh is struggling. So there are, the stimuli from the government, from the buyers, even from the user.
Mhm.
So if we put together, then the industry will strive. Otherwise, it will face challenges.
Yeah, probably like all of the producing countries in Southeast Asia right now,
Yeah.
facing severe challenges. So what do you think if all of a sudden everybody in the world would stop buying clothes? Because we do all know we have enough clothes on this planet to fit all of us and to cover all of us. And we are producing way too many new items each year and consuming, obviously, in the Western countries mainly. So what if we start buying clothes all of a sudden the whole world, which means obviously that there wouldn't be a need for further production in Bangladesh? Do you think that would be a chance for the country and for the workers, or do you think it would be a complete disaster?
Uh, it's a very utopian,
Yes.
yeah, anyway, but yeah, to answer your question, stopping garments production entirely would be a very extreme and disruptive shift, especially for countries like Bangladesh. So where ready-made garments industry is the backbone of the economy and earning more than 80% of the forex of the country's economy every year. So while such a move could theoretically eliminate the labor exploitation, because no production, no exploitation, right? No
True.
factories are there. So it would also jeopardize the livelihood of millions of workers, predominantly the women, the more than 4 million women who depends on this job for their survival. Instead of a total halt, a more balanced transformation could focus on circular economy and sustainable production, encouraging a shift toward repair, resell, recycling, or upcycling industries would create new
Mhm.
uh, job while reducing the waste as well. So if we stop, the clothes production right now, so Bangladesh could become a leader in textile recycling and sustainable fashion innovation. So it could be one of the options. Another is diversification of the economy. Investing in alternative industries such as technology, renewable energy, or ethical manufacturing could help reduce resilience on the RMG sector. Another would be the improved labor rights and working conditions rather than eradicating the garment production. Ensuring the fair wage, safer condition, and collective bargaining could help the end exploitation while keeping the industry alive. So these are the options
Mhm.
we could explore
Yeah.
if we
So
stop the production right now.
no,
Yeah.
definitely. I absolutely agree. And it's interesting to hear your view on it. So since Bangladesh has gone through a lot of political turmoil last year, and currently it is run by an interim government that is led by Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus. what's your hope for the future of the country, maybe also for this government? Do you think that this new government, if the election basically helps them to be, to become a more stable government, do you think they have the chance to really improve the garment sector in Bangladesh and to support the working conditions for the mainly female textile workers?
Bangladesh has passed a very critical year, the 2024. So it has changed the past regime. At the same time, Professor Dr. Muhammad Yunus came in as advising the Bangladesh government right now. He is the chief advisor. So we have very high hope from this government. Yeah. So the government is currently focused on ensuring the free, fair, and credible election by implementing necessary reforms. Government from number of reforms commissions, for example, the Election Reforms Commission, then Anti-Corruption Reforms Commission, then there are white paper commission. So these are the commissions that are working right now. So, and the election commission is also updating the voter list, enhancing the transparency in the upcoming election. But despite this effort and despite the political will of the current government, the political environment remains the polarized, with the opposition parties gaining they're gaining the momentum after the Khaleda Zia's recent acquittal. So Khaleda Zia was the ex-prime minister. So economic challenges such as labor unrest and banking sector instability further complicate the situation. And the elections are expected between late 2025 or early 2026. And the success of these reforms will depend on the political cooperation. I mean, all the political parties' cooperations is required here, and the economic stability and the social harmony. And we're hoping that Bangladesh is progressing toward the hope and for the high growth. Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. We all hope the same. Definitely. We're watching closely and we're just really hoping that this new government is going to bring about real change and improvement for sure. So Ridwan, we're coming to an end of our episode. I have a very last question for you, because our next recording will be with a lady from an Indian NGO called Cividep. Her name is Kaveri. And I'm wondering, if you would have a talk with Kaveri, what would you be most interested to hear from her? So do you have a question that I can ask her when I talk to her?
My question would be to Ms. Kaveri from India, that how the Indian government and Indian civil society organizations, including NGOs, they are working to improve the water situation and water safety in the rural areas, and how they replicate one model to another areas. So this is my question to Ms. Kaveri.
Great, thank you. I will take the question with me and ask Kaveri when I talk to her. But now let me thank you, Ridwan, for taking the time to talk to us and to share all of your experiences and the current situation in Bangladesh. We're all with our hearts and minds with Bangladesh and hope that this political change will turn out really positive for the country and everybody in the country, of course. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ridwan.
Thank you.